Hey everybody, how's it going today? It's Friday. It's a pretty nice day, pretty windy right now, but a lot of you guys are getting ready for motocross races this weekend. Some of you are going to be racing supercross this weekend, and man, we hope you guys go out and have fun, ride with passion, and kick some butt. Take some risk out there. Not foolish risk, but you know, calculated. There's a difference between foolish and a calculated risk. If you're not ready for a big triple jump and you're a novice rider, why would you do it and hurt yourself? So, but if you've been practicing for it, you know, you're never going to know until you take that calculated risk. So anyway, I want to get started with we've been doing a lot on Moto Mind, and you know, basically, you know, I can't help you with conditioning or your nutrition. You know, that's what you have your coaches for. That's what you may be really good at. You got your bike dialed in, but what I do want to help you with is getting you, whether you're a privateer racer or an amateur racer, guy or girl, I want to get you to think about life differently and think about your racing differently. You know, maybe a lot of you guys already know this. Maybe a lot of you girls already know this stuff. But for those that don't, or just give it a chance. The one thing I'd like to say is, I hate to use the word promise you, because like anything in life, you could have the best coach in the world out there on the track with you, but if you don't apply what you're learning, I can't guarantee you nothing. It's a personal choice, you know. Nobody can do these things for you or me, you know. I can learn all these things, and I can learn everything there is to know, but if I don't apply it, that's my own personal choice. Nobody can do that for me. I can be inspired, I can be encouraged, but if I don't apply it, I won't benefit from it. But what I want to tell you is, give this some thought. You know, watch it, share it, tag a friend. You know, if you feel it could help you or somebody, by all means, that's what we do these videos for. We do these videos not only to help you in your racing, but to help you in life. Everything we talk about applies to everything in life, not just your racing. But I guarantee, if you want to push it to the next level, this will help you. So thanks for bearing with us. I have been doing videos on the Moto Mind, you know, how to think, you know, how to get over things, how to get through storms in your life, how to overcome. I want to start a new series called Mindfulness. I'm going to write it down here. Mindfulness. I hope you guys can see that. When I say guys, I mean the girls too. There's a lot of motocross girls out there, and they're rad, they rock, they're fast. I wouldn't want to race against some of them. So we're going to talk about this new series, Mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is thinking about things. You know, mindfulness is, you know, everything I talk about. I've learned in the Bible. I've learned through life, through trial, through error, through failures, through hardships, through victories, through defeat. But mindfulness is getting to know who you are. Mindfulness is not just doing something without thinking. Mindfulness is putting some thought into it. Asking yourself why you do, or why I do what I do. And you know, it's cause and effect. You know, if you keep going out and riding, and you've been riding for 2 or 3 years and you're still not doubling, you know, it all depends on your skill level, but you may be going out there and doing the same thing over and over, and you're not gonna grow, you're not gonna get better. You may move up a class, you may move up a different size bike, you may get a new bike, but you're really not going to excel at the rate that maybe someone else is, or that you want to. And that's what I want to talk about. So this new series is going to be called Mindful, or Mindfulness. So You know, when we were born, you know, there were things that occurred when we were born. You know, we had our folks' DNA in us. We have our folks' genes in us, our mom and dad's genes in us. But there were some natural things that occurred when we were born, when we were created. And we were created with a mind, but there's two types of minds I want to talk about. I want to talk about this mind right here. We'll call this the conscience mind. Again, if you can't see this, I apologize. I got the moto van out here. I'm right on the side of the moto van. Hope this comes off. Okay, but then you have this thing right here. Big. And this is the subconscious mind. Okay? So we're talking about the conscious mind and subconscious mind, and right now some of you may be losing somebody. Some of you may be hitting pause or stop, and you know you don't have time for this, and that's fine. But what I'm going to say is really important. And it can really help you. And you know, the champions out there, you know, those guys that are excelling or girls that are excelling, they understand this and get it. So give it a chance. And this, what I'm getting ready to tell you, will affect everything in your life. You know, you may be getting ready to get married, you may be in a relationship, you may be already married. What I'm going to tell you here will change your life. Just please give me a chance here. So when we're born, there's things that already fill our mind, but where do we learn that? Where do we learn things? We learn things from the people we're with. The people that influence us. When we're little, it's our parents, right? They influence us. They teach us. We have part of them in us. But as we grow through middle school and high school, it may be coaches, it may be teachers. All of these things program our mapping in our mind, in our soul realm, in our soul. They create a map, and I want to talk about that. Think about your dirt bike. Think about your fuel-injected 4-stroke you bought in Denver, Colorado. You've never taken that bike anywhere else. You've always ridden at Thunder Valley. Maybe you went down to Colorado Springs and rode at Aztec Family Raceway. I grew up on that track, right, racing that track as well as Thunder Valley. Way back when. But that bike, when you bought it, wherever you bought it from, they probably mapped it to, you know, the altitude in Denver, Colorado. Okay, they probably mapped the air fuel mixture, maybe the timing, to the altitude you're at. So it runs the best it can run at that altitude, right? Okay, well, that's what happens to us as we're growing. When we're young, when we're just a little kid, when we're, you know, riding 50s and 60s, our mapping is taking place at that point. And again, how and where and why. It's coming from the people we're around. It could be our friends, it could be our coaches, it could be our mentors, it could be our teachers. But more than likely, a lot of it comes from our parents. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But I'm just wanting you to understand why we are the way we are, why we do what we do. It's because of our mapping. Why does that bike do what it does? Because of the mapping. Okay? Now, I want to kind of skip ahead here. So we're getting up into our teenage years. We're getting up into 13, 14, 15 years old, right? We're on 85 cc's. A lot of us are probably moving up to 250 4-strokes, or back when I was racing it was 125 2-strokes, which they're still out there. And a lot of people are riding 125 2-strokes. But we're moving up, right? We're growing, we're getting older, we're getting more experience. You know, some of us may be jumping on 450s, but you know, in that age group, you're more than likely either still on an 85 or you've jumped to a 125 or 250. But nevertheless, why have you done that? Because you've grown, you've matured. So think about from the time you were born until you're 13 or 14 or 15. Okay, all of that time, those 14 years, let's just say 14 years, your mapping has been programmed, right? You've been programmed by the environment you've been in. You've been programmed by the people you've been around. You've been programmed by people that you've watched, by who you learned from. When I was little, my dad was a racer, and I learned little things from how he got on his bike, how he threw a leg over it, how he kick-started it, how he worked on it. You know, he always had a habit of checking tire pressure. He always had a habit of cleaning the air cleaner. He always had a habit of checking the oil. Well, I grew up emulating that, right? I grew up watching that. I grew up watching how did he respond when he didn't do good. I grew up watching how did he take a jump. Or I grew up watching how did he lay on the ground in pain when he crashed, right? All these things are programming or mapping. Again, we bought this bike from Denver, Colorado. It's mapped a certain way. When up to your point, you're 14 years old, you're mapped a certain way, good or bad. Bad habits, good habits, habits that sabotage you, whatever. I mean, it all depends on your environment. It's not to blame anybody. It's not to say anybody's better than another. And I'm going to get to why. So, how fast are you when you're 14? You know, how long have you been racing? How well are you doing? Do you just struggle year after year? That all goes back to how we're mapped, and that's what I'm going to get into. Thanks for hanging with me. This is going to be good stuff. We'll do several series. So we're mapped a certain way, right? Where does that mapping take place in our head, or in our mind? It takes place in our subconscious. This is where our mapping takes place. Okay? In our subconscious. Our subconscious mind is what keeps our heart beating. It's what makes our legs move. It's what things just happen naturally. Well, how we breathe. Think about when you first got on your bike. You had to think about how to pull your Kickstarter out, right? To kick it. And then the next step may have been mom or dad, or maybe a brother or a cousin or a mentor, whoever, teaching you how to let the clutch out without dumping it, right? And you had to think about it every time you went out there and did it. But then you get to a point, you just do it naturally, right? You don't even look down when you kickstart your bike. Think about you pro riders out there, you privateers out there. Think about the things that you don't even think about anymore, because you take it. It's so natural to you, whether it's jumping a double or making a correction in the air. Maybe you're looping out, making that correction. It becomes so natural to you. But think about the rider that's just beginning. None of those things are natural. Okay? Well, that's what happens when that's what fills our subconscious mind from years of mapping, years of programming. That could be good or bad. You could have grew up riding a dirt bike and sitting way too far back coming into the corner, and nobody's ever taught you correctly. So you got 14 years. Well, I mean, a lot of us, I started riding at 5, and some of you girls and guys started riding before that. But wherever you started riding, let's just say you got 10 years of bad habits. You're sitting, but you're coming in the corner, you're sitting back. And I understand sitting back when you're braking hard, but I'm talking about you're still sitting back when you go through the apex of the corner. You're not scooting forward, you're not getting your centered position. So you got 10 years of that bad habit. Where is that stored at? Stored in your mapping, just on your dirt bike in your ECM module. That's where it's stored. Okay, so the next person went out there and had a good example of how to ride. The next person went out there and was taught from an early age, no son, no daughter. If you're talking about your kids, I know I do it to mine constantly. I'm out there stopping them and saying, scoot forward in that seat, or get centered when you go through that corner, or get that head over the handlebars when you jump. You're too far back, or you're looping out. Constantly correcting them. And But what about if you weren't corrected like that? Think about, you could have rode for 10, 15 years and you're racing and you're just not excelling, right? Well, let's just say it's taking you 23 years, 24, 25 years to become a privateer. But you still have that mapping, right? You've gotten better. Obviously, you're a privateer, you're a pro rider. If you're a pro rider, you're good, okay? You've come through the different size bikes, the different levels, the different classes. But what makes one privateer excel more than another, and what makes something come more natural and easy to them? It's all in this mapping. This mapping I'm talking about takes place from the time you're born to the time you're about 15, 16 years old. Okay, that's where the mapping is taking place, good or bad. Who was teaching you how to ride? Who was stopping you and say, don't do that again. Don't do that again, little Johnny. You know, if you keep sitting back in the seat like that, you're gonna loop out and you're gonna crash. If you keep sitting back coming into a corner, it's gonna run out from under you. Let's you know, what about the 14-year-old that's going into pro that throws a fit every time he loses a race, okay? If that isn't corrected, that becomes part of our mapping. And that mapping, again, is created by our environment. It's created by our teachers. It's influenced by our parents. Yeah, there's a genetic predisposal there as well, you know, that happens through the blood, but 95% of it is through our influence. I don't know the exact percentage, but a lot of it is through our influence, through what we witnessed through our eyes, what we heard through our ears. You know, you're a loser or you're a winner. You know, get up, you can do this, dust the dirt off your pants, you can do this. Or it could have been the opposite of that. You're a loser, you need to give up on this, you ain't worth a damn. Okay, that all contributed to our mapping. And that mapping takes place in our subconscious mind. So that's why we do what we do. Okay, now let's talk about the conscious mind. The conscious mind is how we think. Right now, you're watching this video going, man, when's this guy going to get to his point? He's being repetitious. You know, he's boring me. That's the conscious mind. That's your thinker. That conscious mind thinks into the future. It thinks into the past. It reasons. It's where the emotions and the feelings are. That your subconscious is not. Okay, when up until you were 15, 16 years old, that's your mapping. So your subconscious mind don't know any different. If you've always sat back in the corner, or you've rolled up to the gate and been intimidated, and you're 16 years old, when you're 18 years old, that your subconscious doesn't know any different. Okay, your subconscious doesn't know the past. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the future. Your subconscious just takes orders on what your environment was, or what your surroundings were, or what you fed it. Okay, and I'm going to get into mindfulness and the importance of it, and why you think about what you think about, and it'll kind of tie moto mind in together. So again, your subconscious mind, I don't care whether you're 23 years old and you're still throwing a fit after you lose a race, or you're a nice person. That's coming from your programming. Your programming, your mapping. Let me give you another example. If you bought your bike from Denver, Colorado, the guy that you bought it from at the KTM shop, Honda shop, whatever, Yamaha shop, they mapped it for the area, and you told them that you're only going to ride it in Colorado or the Denver area. So they mapped your air fuel mixture and your timing according to all of that, and your riding style, all that stuff, kind of fuel you're going to use. You move to sea level. Your subconscious mind, I'm going to leave you with this before we go on to our next series, but I encourage you to keep watching. This will change your life, I promise you. I hate to say that, because it all comes down to who applies it, right? And nobody's perfect on this. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here telling you these things, I fail at it all the time, but I don't live there. And that's the difference. And that's what we cannot do. We cannot live somewhere. Okay, we're all gonna have weak times, we're all gonna have weak moments. but we cannot live there. So you bought this bike in Denver, you moved to California, you're out there training through the winter time, but you didn't change your mapping. Your mapping's still mapped for Denver. That is exactly how your subconscious is, because we pre-programmed it. That programming occurred throughout our life, good or bad. Could be bad habits. You know, you've heard the expression, you know, you ride just like your dad rode. He wasn't very good on starts either. Or you ride just like your mom or your dad or your brother, whatever. He was really aggressive through that first corner. Okay. Well, that's probably because that's where your programming came from. That's who you always watched. That's who you always learned from. So you've moved to California, that is your programming. So you may be asking yourself how you change it. That's where the beautiful thing comes into play. You know, all this can be related to relationships too. You know, you maybe have always treated people like crap, or maybe thought you were a little better than they were. Guess what? Came from your programming. You may have been hanging around people like that. You may have been influenced people that were always like that. Over years and years, you've programmed your ECM module like that. Okay? So you've moved to sea level and your bike isn't running the best. Why? Because your programming is still set up for sea level. So how do we begin to change it? That's what we're going to talk about next time. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to share these videos or tag a friend. We're going to have them on Facebook and YouTube. Check it out. Thanks for joining us, everybody.